Good evening and welcome to Have I Got News For You? I'm Neil Kinnock. In the news this week, the man who wagered that Brian Harvey would be the first out of I'm a Celebrity wins his bet. Following his libel victory over the Daily Telegraph, George Galloway continues to keep a low profile. And there are suspicions that European Union funds may have been misspent on the new toll road to Aberystwyth. Tonight, on Ian Hislop's team, a journalist and writer recently described by The Spectator magazine as showing quite prodigious fertility. And The Spectator knows all about that. Please welcome Will Self. And with Paul Merton tonight is a writer and comedian who's a regular on Radio 4's Just a Minute, where she has to talk without interruption for 60 seconds. Only 60? You're not really trying. Please welcome Linda Smith. And we start with round one, naturally enough. Paul and Linda, here's yours.
So David Blunkett, Home Secretary, and
Satan's bearded folk singer.
There's Kimberly, what's her name, with a fuzzy Trevor McDonald in the background.
That's her nanny.
That's her nanny. That's the Daily Mail. Revealed nanny got her visa in 19 days. Luna House is how far you have to go to get a work permit. That's in Croydon, I think. And
Tony Blair practising for his next meeting with George W. Bush.
Yeah.
What was the central allegation about the Home Secretary's conduct?
Well, you probably know him better than I do.
There was, well, I've been following the story, as I think everybody else
Would you have
has.
sacked him, Neil?
And
Would you have what?
Oh,
Sacked.
I would wait. Actually, I thought it was only my hearing was the problem, but Linda got the same misinterpretation. I would have waited for the evidence. I would have waited for the evidence.
Purposes.
Would have. You would have. Sorry, love, I missed that.
It's all right.
I'm very, very old. You must understand.
Yeah,
this.
you're going into the House of Lords. OK, sorry, my question. Would you have sacked him?
I just said I would have waited until the evidence was there.
That's evading the
balanced it, and then made a decision.
Right, and what decision would that have been?
Depending on the evidence.
Right, unlike Tony Blair, who said beforehand, I'm sure he'll be exonerated.
That was a very interesting comment.
You can understand why Blair would say I'm sure he'll be exonerated, because after all, that is a function of government inquiries, isn't it, really? He's on a bit of a roll with them at the moment, Tony Blair.
I thought it was a bit of a strange intervention from the Prime Minister, actually, given that he'd appointed a head of an inquiry, Sir Alan Budd.
I think he's going to end up, Sir Alan Budd, coming back and saying that there are no weapons of mass destruction in Blunkett's beard.
That's all they've done. They've done that.
Basically, it's a disgrace. The inquiry is going to look into something very, very small. You know, a nanny or a rail ticket or something. Well, ignoring the main question is that, you know, Blunkett and the woman behaved like complete shit. And the small matter of deceiving the husband into believing that he's had 2 children, not just 1, 2, taking the boy away on holiday. The father didn't even know. What happened if something goes wrong? Who rings up? Pretending it's Mr. and Mrs. Blunkett on holiday, removing a child so that you can shag the woman in Corfu.
Well, I think that analysis.
Yet.
I think that analysis is pretty conclusive.
I thought because I was shagging her and we had a deep personal relationship, she could have free rail travel on the taxpayer.
Well, it did occur to me, actually.
I'm sorry, Mr. Blunkett, I've done nothing wrong. Yes, you have, mate.
I must say, I could have addressed a question to David Blunkett. What is it exactly about the word spouse you do not understand, David? That might have been...
will you say that to him when you next see him?
I will probably say that to him, absolutely.
Good.
I think that's quite likely.
Well, that'll tell him, won't it?
Well,
I mean, I can see what you're saying here about Mr. Blunkett's behaviour. I can't help seeing this as a bit of a softer side to our deliciously stern Home Secretary, really. That suddenly he's become a sort of Mr. Rochester figure.
You said he has erectile problems. This is that programme where we look at people having sex and tell them how to do it better, isn't it?
Yeah. That's how I was booked, anyway.
No, I was...
This was coverage of David Blunkett, who is accused of using his position to favour his paramour. According to the Daily Mail, David Blunkett admitted he'd made a genuine mistake after giving his lover a free train ticket for a romantic tryst in Doncaster. A mistake on so many levels. Ian and Will, foreign affairs for you.
It's the Lib Dems.
They've taken over an entire country. Rather shockingly, that's Charles Kennedy. This is the Ukraine, which is undergoing a mass upsurge of democratic feeling, which is extensively funded by George Bush and George Soros, those two guardians of liberty.
You're sounding awfully cynical about this orange revolution.
Well, I mean, I'm just...
I think it's really impressive, the turnout. 110%, you can't knock that.
I just sound awfully cynical about everything, and I now happen to be talking about the Ukraine. But I mean, up until a couple of weeks ago, we'd never heard of this man, Yushchenko, who has this marvellous face that suggests that they didn't invent Clearasil in the Ukraine.
Wasn't he poisoned by the Russians so that he would get a face that looked as though they hadn't invented Clearasil, and they would vote for the other guy?
This is the guy in July, and the very same man within the last few days. Is anybody familiar with this woman?
Is David Blunkett familiar with her?
Well, no, I am not familiar with this woman. I'm sorry, Lord Neil, my liege.
Have you picked the title of the House of Lords?
No, not yet.
Will you be going to an outfitter's to get the necessary
No,
robes, Your Honour?
I will not. I will not. What I understand now is there's a kind of...
May I raise up?
Well, there's one peasant that learned it place already.
Yes.
We can only gain from here.
Yes.
No.
Can you give us a clue? Say the first letter of your title.
What does
Yes.
it rhyme
Lord
with?
Kinnock is it a B?
Not at this juncture. It may well be.
Is it a film?
It's not Lord Budweiser.
Will we be allowed to just call you Neil after your title
You will
is
be allowed
His
to call me
Holiness?
Neil, and you will be allowed to kneel. And I think that's a very substantial concession. You're pretty good. The lady that we showed
Is
earlier...
it Lord Jungle Book? Linda said it was a film. Is it a film?
That's pretty good. No.
Lord, carry on, don't lose your head.
That's a very good one.
Lord, little bit of a hypocrite for accepting a title.
And will there always
That's
be...
really offensive, that little.
Should we strike the bit?
There'll always be a place at court for a jester. Will, you'll never be out of work. For as long as we've got new Labour peers, it'll be perfectly
Well,
all
we seem
right.
to be having them in perpetuity.
Oh, I mean,
funny that.
Yeah,
You
well,
all
we
said
might
you'd
be
get
able
rid
to...
of it,
Well,
but
you
there
never
you
know.
are.
With the right encouragement from people like yourself, we might be able to do something
Are you going to vote for your own demolition,
I
like
think
a
that would
turkey
be...
at Christmas?
I think that would be a pretty good idea.
Is this as much fun as you thought it would be?
Why do we hunt people from the House of Lords?
Of all
dressed
these
as
nice
foxes. Hunt people from the House of Lords dressed as foxes. Don't change anything. Just send them out there, one by one, every weekend.
That would be terrific as well.
Here comes Lord Helsham. He's 104. He's over the fence.
But
He's
the
been
point
winged.
is, this lady...
Oh, sorry, I forgot that.
This lady...
Oh, she's the newsreader,
She is.
who in the middle of the news reading about Kiev was told to read this news out and translate it into sign language, and she stopped in the middle and said, this is a load of lies.
Absolutely. She signed to her audience, I am very ashamed to translate these lies, and this is probably my last day in the job, so goodbye. Ukraine is on the brink of anarchy, democracy is in turmoil, and the president is refusing to relinquish power. So the England cricket team will be touring there next month. Round two this week, another picture spin quiz.
Hey!
The first picture.
That's Jimmy Savile. It's Jimmy Savile, because Top of the Pops is 40 years old this year. 1964 it started, but it's been taken off BBC One. It's natural home for 40 years. Nobody's buying singles anymore. So it's going out on UK TV Gold 2:15 Tuesday morning. How's about that, then?
According to the papers, who are the BBC hoping to attract as the new viewers?
Aliens. They're expecting aliens to arrive on Earth and take over our government and watch Top of the Pops. Yes, distracting people from the sexual antics of David Blunkett.
Well, they say they're looking for the Clarkson man. What do you think they mean by the Clarkson man?
Jeremy Clarkson?
Well, what sort of man is that?
Sort of overweight, bigoted, sort of tedious, 4x4 driving, thicko twerp.
Yeah.
No, to be fair, the 4x4 thicko twerp is what he was driving last week. It's a Japanese model.
Meanwhile, of course, no one should be allowed to forget a quite startling hit from the mid-1980s that rocketed up to number 28 in the charts.
We talked and talked until it was time. We'd agree. I know we talked it out.
Did that win you a lot of votes?
I rather doubt it.
In 1992, do you think you'd have won if instead of campaigning, you just pissed off on holiday for 3 weeks? Just gone away, kept your gob off the telly, maybe replaced yourself with, say, like a lovely little kitten.
Bagpuss.
Something like that. Even a ginger kitten if you wanted to be a bit rebellious. A jar of ginger marmalade. Something like that. Do you think you might have sailed in with just those precious few votes?
What we really
I mean, I
needed
realise
was-
you were up to the mighty charisma of John Major. That's a tough old one, isn't it?
Oh, it was...
The man who ran away from the circus to become an accountant.
Because it has to be said that the Labour Party has always been the party of rhythm. What a press go.
You feel that John Prescott's heart really isn't in it?
No, it's really...
What was the track?
Things can only get better.
Things can only get
do
better.
How
Yes.
we laughed.
Go on, Will. I heard you singing behind me that very night.
You certainly didn't. I was weeping about 4 miles away. I was weeping on the edge of my my then-girlfriend's bed, crying as you twerps were dancing up and down. I saw the whole sickening debacle of the last 2 terms of your administration unfolding before my eyes.
If I'd known that the result had made you so despairingly sad, I would have enjoyed myself even more. I think it's time for the next picture. Time waits for no man. Right, Ian. Totally distracted. Right, Paul.
OK. Clement Attlee, of course.
Yes.
Clement Attlee, who was polled this week, voted him the most effective of all British Prime Ministers. The last 100 years, I think. He had the National Health Service, welfare state and all that, so...
Thank goodness we've got a government that's going to get rid of all that now.
He looks a bit like Jean-Luc Picard, doesn't he?
Yes. He does a little bit, yes.
Which of the 20 Prime Ministers of the 20th century
Yeah.
came bottom of the list?
Major.
No.
Anthony
Anthony
It
Eden.
was Eden. Eden.
Oh, yes, stupid foreign adventure, Suez.
Yeah.
People don't forgive it.
Yeah. Amongst the other results on the list of Prime Ministers from the last century, Margaret Thatcher was voted the 4th most popular Prime Minister. Not in our house, she wasn't. Let's have a look at the next picture.
I can speak this sort of youth stuff.
Can you?
And it says, Tony, you are great. You see, GR with a figure 8 is great.
It's wonderful.
No. It's not like Neil speaking fluent Walloon.
Dank u wel, dank u wel. Tot ziens. And why was that in the news this week?
Tony Blair's been texting people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Tony Blair was texting and taking questions from
Online.
18 to 24-year-olds online this very week.
Oh,
And he
how
received...
exciting. Young people texting and the young Prime Minister texting
Well,
back. Oh, it makes
absolutely
you
great. Can you see the first question? Can you read that, Ian? Because your mastery of this is well known.
Yeah. Would you trust your wife to run the country?
Yes.
I believe that's a shorthand for the, or just a mispronunciation.
I find country a bit offensive, actually. I don't know how the Prime Minister reacted to that.
He actually said, well, fortunately, that's not a question that's arising. The next question was even more testing.
Oh, yes, I can do this one. Should Blunkett be sacked?
That's one question that didn't actually arise,
Oh,
even
how
when
funny.
you decode it.
Who would be in your all-time
Super grape.
group?
Yeah.
Super grape, surely.
And what was the bold answer
Super
that the
grape.
Prime Minister gave?
Eric Clapton, the Beatles and Mick Jagger.
That's absolutely right. If we could give bonus points, they would be
You
arriving in front of
It's
you
up to
by
you.
the shed load.
You can.
OK. Oh, we can we?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can.
you can do
That's
whatever you
great.
like.
Think of
That's
it as
terrific.
a Ukrainian election. You can give it...
This week, Tony Blair was involved in a question and answer session via text messaging. His first problem came when he tried to text a reply to a question about the war in Iraq. But he couldn't find the W, the M, or the D. Let's have a look at the next picture. Blue light, Ian.
Is it boys' ballet? Something to do
It's
with Billy
ballet.
Elliot?
This is Diana the ballet. They've done it in Denmark, and it's been very successful, and it's going to come to the West End. And it's basically the story of Diana and the royal family set to ballet.
Somebody else has been in the news this week using film footage.
Oh, is this the voice coach?
Absolutely. Do you know how much he was
This man
paid?
who said that he vowed that he would never sell those tapes until he felt like it.
Yeah. and was given £500,000 by, I think it was NBC, wasn't it? The American channel.
And she said how Charles only wanted sex every 3 weeks. Well, that seems a very strange thing to say to a voice coach, really, because normally it's your Henry Higgins, you know, the rain in Spain falls men not. My husband only shags me every 3 weeks. It seems...
And it's very plain.
Absolutely true. Have you ever been a ballet dancer, Will?
Yes, yes, I've been a ballet dancer. I've also been Camilla Parker Bowles.
Yeah.
And we've all been something else in a former life. Ian was the Emperor of Persia, and Paul, a fluffy ginger kitten who governed Britain.
Well, hang on a minute. How come Ian gets to be Emperor of Persia and I end up being a kitten?
Linda thinks that a ginger kitten is about the highest form of living being.
No,
So-
she just said it would win the election when you couldn't.
Well, that's the...
I think that's right. I think that's what he said, isn't it?
OK, this is the week in which the Princess Diana fountain was closed down yet again. Since its opening in July, hundreds of visitors have been injured, in perfect keeping with the designer's promise that people would leave the Diana Memorial with tears in their eyes. Round 3 is the odd one out round. Just one between you this week. Dylan Thomas, David Cassidy, Janet Street Porter, and the European Union.
This is to do with stars.
No.
It is. Janet Street Porter has just picked up a load of stars in I'm a Big Brother, Get Me In.
Yeah. This is nothing to do with stars, is it?
No, absolutely
it's
nothing.
anything to do with the Welsh?
Welsh, isn't it? Welsh,
Yes,
Because
you
Dylan Thomas,
have
of course,
a point there.
famously
he
Welsh.
Welsh?
Oh, surely
Janet Street
not.
Porter, his mother was Welsh and she didn't get on well with her, so there's a connection there. I think he's got
Oh,
a
I
Welsh
know.
connection. Hang on a second. And so the European Commission's the odd one out.
No. Nearly's Welsh.
Oh, right.
And he has been at the European Commission
Right.
doing God knows what.
I don't know what he's been doing either, but I
What
know
have
he
you
got a
been doing,
stonking
Neil?
big
Come
pension.
on, what have you been doing?
I've been doing immensely useful things, among other things, irritating and generating huge envy in Will Self, which can be bad.
Envy. Steady on, Neil. Steady on.
So this is about we're being Welsh, is it? That's the clue, is it?
He knows.
They're all Welsh except the EU, which printed a map of Europe and left Wales off it.
That you have.
Is David Cassidy Welsh?
Yes, he comes from the Partridge family.
No,
The European Union's been odd one out, so not be nasty about Wales, just ignored them.
absolutely.
There we
And
are.
I think Ian was down near that. In the Eurostat statistical publication this year, Wales was inadvertently left off a map of the European Union. But Ian was born in Swansea, you know.
I do, yeah.
He could play for Wales if he wanted to.
I could, and I have been
What
asked.
could you play?
Football, rugby,
Could you?
ping pong. Can I just say on that publication, if people had woken up and seen it was a Eurostat publication, they would have thought it must be rubbish. Because Eurostat's having a bit of a fraud scandal, isn't
Absolutely.
it? Oh, a bit of a shocker, that
No,
one,
the
Neil,
fraud
isn't it?
scandal's over. The difficulty has been in the subscription of numbers from the Hellenic Republic, which gave a rather misleading view of the level of public debt. Now then,
Hang on, we're trying to make a new host for the show. Look, lovely swan.
Lovely swan that could have beaten John Major.
Yeah.
we went round the list about those who'd had unfortunate thing to say about Wales. David Cassidy, who said that if he lived in Wales, he'd slit his wrists. And Dylan Thomas, from Wales's most notable poet, he said, "Wales, land of my fathers can keep it." You will know this, Linda. The name of Dylan Thomas's most distinguished verse play.
Would be Under Milk Wood.
Absolutely right.
Slow black Bible, bobbing bloody
It's caught on. It's caught on.
Is it set in the Caribbean?
No. Janet Street Porter, her mother insisted on speaking Welsh despite the fact that the only other living being at home who spoke Welsh was the pet budgerigar. Before she appeared in I'm a Celebrity, Janet Street Porter signed up to appear in a Welsh version of Big Brother. That's 10 English people stuck in a holiday cottage, which is then set on fire. As always, we conclude on the missing words round. This week's guest publication is Windsock International magazine, with this wonderful headline: Lights, camera, action, Fockers. So here we go. Long-time readers of Windsock will already be familiar with what?
Flatulence. Loneliness. Depression. Isolation.
Yawning chasms of boredom.
And psychosis.
Losing
Loss of
the will to live.
Windsock readers' wives.
Unfortunately, you've all failed to find the missing words, which are Leon Gimple's photographs. This is on the tip of your tongue, I know that.
How on earth are we meant to get that?
Well, I thought you'd be an avid reader of Windsock
No, I went
magazine.
off right of Windsock magazine years ago. No good anymore.
When it merged with Windbag Weekly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If I read anything about it, I just read Fockers Fortnightly.
It's absolutely.
That's like the low-budget one that grabbed all of Windsock's readership.
That's right,
didn't it?
yeah.
It's
With a
pretty
centre-page
sad,
spread.
Or the one that has royal approval, Fockers 3 Weekly.
Yes, that's right.
The next headline. What voted worst American import?
Kimberly Fortier.
Remake of Alfie.
Lloyd Grossman.
Not quite.
Is it potato?
Lloyd Grissman.
No.
Big Meals.
No, big comes in there again.
Big bollocks. Huge bollocks floating from America and destroying us with their hairs sticking to their heads. Floating. Is that what it is, Neil?
That's got
Now
a
you say it, it
mild
makes sense.
relationship.
But,
No.
I mean, you know...
Big Pants.
Huge
big
pants.
films.
Huge pants that net whales and tear it off Shropshire. Gusset.
You like the word gusset?
Yeah,
I think it's a
quite.
It's pretty poetic.
It's a
Yeah,
great word,
absolutely.
gusset.
Absolutely.
I used to have a band called the Tedious Gussets.
That figures.
I think I bought one of your albums.
No, it was Baywatch that was voted the worst American import. Personally, I can't imagine why anyone would want to watch charismatic celebrities with beautiful bodies frolicking on the beach.
And apparently you suggested recently that, in fact, it was Glynis who was falling and you saved her.
I did, absolutely.
That's right. Can we have a look again, then?
Well, okay. Let's run it again.
Mind that Neil is saving Glynis.
You
from
will
falling.
notice a critical... See what
Yes,
has
Say,
happened?
there you are. And that's
Yes,
on-
Looks like she was
She
in danger
definitely
of
pushed
falling.
you. She pushed you.
I wouldn't have that said about my wife. What she was doing, actually, and I was cooperating,
Yeah.
was to save her new grey boots.
Ah.
And as a result, that image was imprinted on the mind of a whole generation, with certain political results, maybe. Next!
I
Actually,
when you tried to prove that you weren't Canute. Canute.
Thank you.
Neil, has she still got the grey boots?
She still has the grey boots.
Oh, well, that's all right, then.
Pretty good.
All right.
And finally, what is the best journal for German aeronautics?
Schlagen First-Time Nerds Unterbaden Fastbinderverlagotek.
That was our internationalist spokesman, Mr. Will Self.
We've
No,
really
the-
come on since the war. We've put it behind us.
Absolutely.
We've moved on as a country.
Amazing.
Is it
Amazing.
Surrender Weekly?
Isn't quite there. Isn't quite there.
I will not be twitted for my anti-German sentiment.
I take it all back.
Yeah, the country of
It was a
Beethoven,
mistake.
Kent, Holderlin, Heine. I feel my breast swelling with love for
Absolutely.
Germany.
Come on, ode to joy.
Yes. Do you know we've had a lot of culture on this programme? I'm very, very, very encouraged. Careful. If you sing too much music on this programme, we have to pay royalties. And you don't want to
What,
bankrupt
to
the company.
Beethoven?
He won't answer the phone, you know. He's deaf.
Meanwhile, the right answer to
Ludwig
the gap in
Ludwig
the
van
headline was
Decker.
Das Propellerblatt.
Oh, it wasn't
Final scores. Ian and Will have 6 well-earned points, but Paul and Linda have 8 excellent points. On which note, we say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and Will Self, Paul Merton and Linda Smith. And I'll leave you with the news that in Berkshire, the leader of the Countryside Alliance arranges a welcome for the visit of Tony Blair. On the streets of South London, 2 local residents share their experiences of long-term unemployment. And in Hull, Pauline Prescott gets herself ready to welcome John back from his visit to the pickled egg factory. Good night.
Have we got some characters for you to meet next on BBC One, from the early gay in the village to the leads of Little Britain. They're on their way in just a tick. Then join the stars of the comedy, Matt Lucas and David Williams, with Jonathan Ross tonight, 10:35 BBC One. On BBC Audio, you'll find a second compilation of Have I Got News For You, featuring highlights from the first 4 series and the very best moments from guest presenters.
48 hours. That's how long we've got to stop a guided missile falling somewhere.
Where's the missile coming from?
Robert Morgan, ex-army, and known trafficker in illegal arms under surveillance.
Who's running it? You don't have the time to worry about who dreamt the whole thing up.
Spooks, Monday at 9, BBC One.
Now, multi-award-winning BBC Three comedy comes to BBC One. From small beginnings to the best of British, meet the new and familiar faces of Little Britain.
Britain, Britain, Britain. Opened by the Queen in 1972. Britain